Judge Culpepper, and thank you for joining us again for another version of What's Next. Tonight, we have three beautiful ladies on the show tonight. But first, Mom, Dad, if you're not a member of the PTA, join. This is about your children. This is about the future of our country. And we'd like you to sit and watch and take notes of all the information that you're going to get as we share it with you one from another. Now, let me introduce to you all three ladies with the Georgia PTA.
My name is Leslie Cushman, and I have the honor of serving as the Georgia PTA State President.
Good. And you, ma'am?
I'm Sheila Cornelius, and I'm serving as President-elect for Georgia PTA.
And I am Donna Kosicki, Second Vice President for Georgia PTA.
Now, I know you all probably sitting here wondering right now, so I'll ask, what is the PTA?
PTA is a child advocacy organization. It stands for Parent Teacher Association. It was established in 1897 by a woman from Georgia, Alice McCullen Burney, and Mrs. Hurst of the Hearst newspaper organization from D.C. They were the first two founding members. Later on, Selena Sloan Butler, who was a graduate of Spelman College, became the founder of the National Congress of Colored Parents and Teachers. So Georgia hails two national leaders, and we're very, very pleased to have them both representing Georgia. Georgia PTA was founded in 1906, and then after that, we joined forces in 1970, where both Congresses became one.
Oh, both of the PTAs became one.
Yes.
Oh, that's interesting.
It is interesting. And then we have spoken before Congress and all of the state legislatures on behalf of children. The first issue, of course, was health issues. Many children were dying at a very alarming rate, even before they reached their first birthday. So that was the very first focus of PTA. Later, it became an education issue. But PTA believes every child can succeed and will succeed if given equitable education funding. And we as parents are going to always support that every child receives the best possible education possible.
Now, that was about the PTA. I've heard of PTSA. What's the difference between the two?
Well, PTSA is Parent Teacher Student Association. And what that allows, when the students become members, they can then serve as either officers or chairmen of committees within the PTA structure. So it's a great benefit to have students in the organization. They have a great perspective. They add so much to this organization, and it's just wonderful to work with them.
So then, for the student to be, the PTSA is one with the students, the PTA is one without.
Right.
But the students have an opportunity to learn more about the governmental issues as well as
Right.
other
Students are
functions.
encouraged to come to our PTA Day at the Capitol and our PTA Advocacy Conference, where they learn and get an opportunity to speak with their state legislators. And it's just a wonderful learning experience for both adult and student.
Oh. Yeah. Now, what does the PTA do for the student achievement and the parent involvement?
Well, there are several things at Georgia PTA that we do. Legislatively, we host two huge events. The first one in September, which is our advocacy conference, where students and parents and PTA leaders, teachers, community members are invited to come in and hear about the hot issues that are coming up in the legislative session forthcoming. And then we also do a PTA Day at the Capitol, which is February 24th, hosted at the Capitol, where we invite parents and leaders and provide education on legislative issues that are, again, hot issue topics. We provide a tour of the Capitol, and our folks actually have an opportunity to speak with legislators about what is important to them and what is on their mind. We also have Reflections, which is a national PTA program. It is probably the best program that we do exclusively for children. This year, Georgia PTA, we had over 23,000 entries come in. And so on March 23rd, we'll have our Reflections reception, which will be very exciting. There are 6 categories within that program, and so that's very exciting. All local units become involved in that. And so we also have convention leadership training every single year in July. This year it's the 10th and the 11th. It's hosted at the Georgia International Convention Center, where we provide training for PTA leaders, local, council, district, and state. We invite superintendents, teachers, the community to come in and receive training to prepare them for the upcoming school year. And it's quite an event. And so we also host the Emerging Minorities Leadership Conference. This year we hosted in Savannah. We had just under 100 people from all the state come in and learn about issues about diversity and inclusion. Our national PTA president was with us for that event. Next year it's going to be hosted in Atlanta. National will be hosting their event here with us, so we're very excited about that. And then we do a lot of collaboration with many other organizations who have like missions, just like PTA.
So you do work with other organizations within the PTA, or the PTA does work with other organizations to accomplish their goals?
Absolutely. Right now we have so many really strong, incredible projects coming up. A very synergistic project right now that we're working with the Georgia Department of Education and with the Georgia PERC, which is the Parental Information Resource Center. And we're working together to see where our resources are similar, where we are strongest in the state, where the greatest need for work to begin and to continue. We work with Title I and Special Services, with the Department of Ed and with PERC. And we're looking at toolkits for teachers to enable them to work more closely or have a better relationship with the parents of the students in their classroom. And so that's a very exciting project that we have coming up. We also just completed, and we continue to work with the Georgia After School Investment Council. We received a grant from National PTA and from the Mott Foundation, and we worked with the GAIC to host a survey where we surveyed all Georgia's voting parents to ask them their perspective on after school. And so we were able to reach rural, suburban, metro, all over the state of Georgia, and we produced a report entitled Critical Need, Georgia's Voting Parents Speak Out About After School. So that was very important. That was sent out to legislators, superintendents, principals across the state, our community partners. Very, very exciting. And another project that we're working on is with J. Tom Morgan. As the juvenile justice system right now, there's an issue with the number of students who are being involved in that. And so J. Tom Morgan is the former DeKalb district attorney. And so he has written a book entitled Ignorance is No Defense, A Teenager's Guide to Georgia Law. This is a book that every parent should have. They should read with their students. We are supporting that it actually becomes part of the curriculum for the health for high school students.
So it's not part of the curriculum now, but it will be in the schools if it gets passed.
That's correct. It's not at this time, but we are supporting that it would become so. Mm-hmm.
Well, because of the violence in the schools nowadays, we need to have that in order to know basically what the kids should know to stay away from all of this.
And what parents should know.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. The parents need to have that.
Absolutely.
To stay away from all of this. What actual services or support does the Georgia PTA give to local PTAs?
Okay, I'll answer that. First of all, as a child advocacy organization, we believe that our biggest strength is our legislation committee, and the fact that we provide or we empower parents and students to advocate for themselves. So to that degree, we have a website, and on our website there is a feature called Capital Watch, and Capital Watch allows any person to go online and look at all the various bills that are being proposed by the legislature, whether it has to do with health, safety. So basically, you're able to follow what pieces of legislation are more important to you and to determine how they impact your school. We also do action alerts via that same Capital Watch feature. And action alerts, for instance, the governor just recently announced that they're going to eliminate all funding for school nurses. So PTA has already proposed a resolution to ask all schools in this state to do what we call a popsicle campaign, but it's actually just using a tongue depressor to write the name of the student and the medication or illness that the student has. The reason why that's important is because if they take away all the school nurses, who do you think will have to be responsible for administering medication, attending to scrapes or bruises or everything, anything that happens to a child in school as it relates to a health incident or accident? And if it's not going to be a school nurse, it's going to be the teacher or an administrator, which means that you'll be taken away from curriculum and class time by having to do that.
And there may not be adapt to do that.
Exactly.
That kind of
Exactly.
You know, I was listening to a television program where the governor of Georgia has taken away so much money from education. That's one of the programs that he is cutting.
Yes,
That's correct.
And the problem with budget cuts in our state anyway is that 65% of the budget itself is education, is funding for education. So when they have to cut the budget, it's easiest to go to where you have the greatest amount of money. So that's a problem. But also when we talk about what do we do for local units, we offer training, as Donna and Leslie have both indicated. We offer training during the summer. But in addition to that, we have different layers of our organization. We have a district level, and so the district officers are also able to provide training to local units. Everything that we provide in person is also on our website, so we have a resource manual, we have brochures and that kind of thing. So in addition to our leadership training, we also work in collaboration with other entities. For instance, the Department of Education provides us with, right now, a $50,000 health and wellness grant, which local units can apply directly to Georgia PTA to receive. And we administer those grants twice a year, and you can apply to up to $1,500 each time. So again, we're looking at ways to develop financial resources for our local units.
Mm-hmm. Right. Donna was telling me, Donna just mentioned earlier about some of the programs you were doing, and that you would go into the Capitol, and you would go through the Capitol, and you work with the legislators and stuff like that, and getting maybe some bills passed that would be good for education and this type of thing. Mm-hmm. Would the local units, local schools like way down in the lower part of Georgia be able to come to the Capitol and work with you all on that as well?
Yes, absolutely. Last year at our PTA Day at the Capitol, which is coming up this February, we had about 200 students, and the majority of those students, I think it was close to 100 or 110 students, came from Columbus, Georgia. But we also had a good number of students who came from the Savannah, Chatham district. So yes, all our events, which is another thing, are open to every PTA, every student, and even if you're not a member of PTA, for certain activities we do have registration that allows non-members to participate, because again, we're an organization that benefits every child, not just public school children.
It's the child, right? The charter schools, private schools, all of the schools, all of the children.
Absolutely.
All of Georgia children.
Absolutely. And one of the best things that we've done recently is network with Peachford Hospital. Did I get it right? Mm-hmm. And so we're in conjunction with them. We are providing a series of health-related issues, anything from ADD to stress in children-related issues. And so there's a series that occurs every month, and anybody, again, can attend those health series.
Let me give the people their website. It's www.georgiapta.org. Again, that's www.georgiapta.org. Now, if you all have some questions, you can just send them back to the PTA. Go to that website. Now, one of the things I want to know again, how is the PTA funded?
The PTA is funded by dues. Each member of Georgia PTA pays $1 to Georgia PTA and $1.75 to National PTA. If you look at all of the organizations in this country, we have by far the lowest dues that we expect people to pay. We do go out and seek grants if they are available and if we are able to meet those grant stipulations.
Now, if I decide to join the PTA, how much would I have to pay for my dues?
Well, each local unit has the right to denote how much dues are going to be collected from their local members.
Right. So they can charge.
Most of the local units, the average is $5. So the local unit keeps $3.25.
So a parent,
$2.25.
Now, if a parent has like 2 or 3 kids in the school, they would only have to pay one time.
Yes, I mean,
to
that's
be a
true.
member of the PTA.
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Yeah,
They
you don't have to pay
for
for
it. Pay
it.
for every child.
Well, but there is a difference, though, is that if you have a child in elementary school, a child in middle school, and a child in high school, then you would want to pay the dues at each of those schools, because the dues that they keep supports the program in each of those schools.
Right.
So the family that has an elementary child, a middle school child, and a high school child, they will be paying your average is what, $5?
$5.
They will be paying $5 every $15 for that one parent.
But every local unit is required to present a budget to the members, and that budget has to be approved by their members. So you really do have a say as to where those dues are being spent by the local unit.
Do the local unit also get to keep a part of that? I think you mentioned in the local unit keep $1 or so of it.
They would, if it's $5 and they're sending $2.75 to us, for $1.75 for national and $1.25. $1 for Georgia PTA. Then they would keep the remainder of that $5.
They keep the rest as operating expenses in order to operate what they need in that particular school
Correct. If
district.
they're trying to buy books for the media center.
Okay. That sounds good. So that's how you all are funded.
That's how we're funded.
Oh, okay. Donna mentioned earlier about some hot topics.
Right.
You want to tell me about those?
I think Sheila's ready to. She's going to tell you.
Well, and
but
we've
all chime in.
Yeah, we already mentioned that right now the hot topic is budget cuts for all of us. And so with that, the primary focus right now is on the elimination of the funds for school nurses. So again, anybody can go to our website and see that we have a new item out there called PTA Takes Action. And what we're asking local units to do is to join us in the campaign for school nurses by acknowledging how many students actually visit the nurse's office either every day or every week, and in sending those tongue depressors to the legislators so that they will see the volume of children involved in requiring nursing assistance. So that's one of our biggest hot topics.
And the nurses even help the teachers. I mean, if there's a teacher that has a problem in one of the schools that my children went to, they actually saved the life of a teacher who was having a heart attack.
Could be something wrong with the child, too. The child may be acting up in class, and it's not altogether a behavior problem. It just
could be medical.
Medical.
And isn't it, I'm sorry.
No, and another interesting point is that one of the cuts that's being proposed by the governor is that they're going to increase the number of students in the class size, so that to save $200 million. Well, if we're increasing the number of students per classroom, K-8, kindergarten through grade 8, then how is it the teacher, if that's the person assigned to do it, supposed to be doling out the medication for the students.
And it's going to be hard to impossible to do.
Yeah.
You know, for that one teacher. Matter of fact, it's going to be all that teacher can do is to maintain control.
Of
Right.
classroom.
Of that
Especially when
classroom.
you're
With that
increasing
many
the
students
number.
in the classroom, it's
Right.
going to be hard to maintain that kind of control. And you can't really concentrate on any individual student when you have that many.
Right.
You know,
Right.
Well, some of the other issues, ironically, still have to do with health issues because we are also addressing the obesity issue in our country, but specifically here in Georgia as well. So that's one of our issues. And then we're also looking at the graduation rate and trying to collaborate with other organizations to do what we can to empower our young people to see that there are opportunities beyond high school, going into college, but what are some of the other options besides that? So we're looking at ways to increase the graduation rate here in Georgia. So those are some of our real hot topics. Not necessarily at the bottom of our list, but certainly another issue is the issue of vouchers. So we'll be keeping our eyes on that as well.
that's an interesting point to make. That's an interesting point to make.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, so what's next for the PTA? What are your immediate goals?
Well, our immediate goals are to, of course, attract better and more diversified leadership within our organization. We have made great strides over the last 5 to 6 years about having more men, about having more diversity as far as religion and also gender and also race. So I think if you look at the board of directors at Georgia PTA, you'll see a very wide variety of people, a rainbow of people.
Good. It would be nice to have a spokesperson from, I don't want to be racist, but it would be nice to have a spokesperson from each particular race, like the Hispanic
Correct.
spokesperson.
And we do.
And we do. We have a
We do.
Hispanic liaison on our
Right.
board, as well as a Dad's Initiative chairperson. We have also a diversity and inclusion chairperson. And so each of these people
Special services.
in special services,
Right. Special
which-
needs.
so we're looking at the whole child and the whole family.
Whole family.
We're also understanding that our society is changing, and so that we must change with it, so that we are inclusive of everybody. Our boards and our PTAs should look like our communities, so that everyone is represented.
Is
Right.
represented.
Absolutely.
Now,
What else? You had something?
Well, one of the things that's what's next is the work that we're doing with the Department of Ed and with the PERC and PTA, and that is walking towards written, informal, or formal partnership agreement, looking at defining parent involvement, defining family engagement, and providing those tools that we will be able to use to empower our parents so that they may be able to successfully walk through this educational journey with their child, and so that their child completes school, becomes workforce ready, post-secondary education, going on to college. And so there's some exciting things coming up with that.
Along with that, recently National PTA, Georgia PTA, and Spelman College and the Atlanta Public School System engaged in a collaboration called an Urban Initiative. And in a nutshell, this initiative is developing a model, as Donna indicated, for family engagement that has practical application, that involves the entire community, so that you're working in a very synergistic manner, so that you can affect the increase in the child's success. And what does all that really mean? Dr. Ken Donaldson-Dade has developed a program that allows teachers, parents, students, to be engaged, and the family to be engaged in that child's education, so that you can look at meaningful ways to gauge how that child is being successful or not.
you have a measuring stick.
Yes,
Absolutely.
Yes, and sometime in early March, we're going to be rolling out a portion of that program. But the fantastic thing about this is that teacher portion of it, because what she's looking at doing is utilizing the model, utilizing this model, so that teachers who are in school that it's through the curriculum that they're learning what does it mean to engage the parent. Because often we have young people graduating from college and going right into the teaching field, and they have no idea what to do or what to expect.
Right.
So this model is going to show that there are best practices that teachers can utilize to engage parents, as well as taking that same model and then critiquing it as a toolkit to give to current teachers.
Now, that model that you're speaking of will be available to all school districts inside of the entire state of Georgia. Am I right?
Eventually.
Eventually, yeah.
We're starting right with a model. We're working with one
Atlanta
school
Public
right now.
Selwood Thurman College and Atlanta
Right.
Public School. Once that model has, once it's
Once it's been
molded to
tried,
a
right.
model, then it will be available
Yes.
to all the school districts and stuff.
Yes, we're hoping that every teacher education institution will pick up that model.
That will be a helpful tool. It'll be a
It'll be
helpful tool.
extremely helpful.
Right, be a very helpful tool. Okay. Now, are there anything else that you would like to share with us?
We actually have some questions from our viewing audience. The first question is, how can one start a PTSA at their school?
Well, that's very easy. All you have to do is contact the Georgia PTA state office.
You might want to repeat the question.
Oh, okay. The question was, how does a school or a community begin a PTA? And all you have to do is contact our state office. Our phone number is 404-659-0214. And they will put that information out to the person that is responsible for organizing PTAs in that particular area of the state.
And all you need is 25 members or 25 parents within your community. 25 business people. It could
Right.
just 25 people.
Don't have to
25
be just 10, 25 people. It doesn't
And-
have to be parents anyway.
That's right.
That's right.
That's right.
To be
Because
business.
one of the new things that we're doing is also developing what we call community PTAs, and this is something that's very different because traditionally we've always only established PTAs inside of a public school building, but now Georgia PTA admission is open to anyone who is interested in developing a child and believes in our mission and our goals. And so we've just really started working with what we call community PTAs. In Savannah, we had a group of businessmen and business partners who wanted to form a PTA, so we're working with them now to develop that model.
That's good. Now, I was just thinking, wouldn't that be on your website?
Yes.
Right. That's www.georgiapta.org.
Yes.
It's on your website. And it will let you know all the things you need to do to
Right.
form one.
Yes.
Yes.
So you can get to form a PTA by going to georgiapta.org. Now, there is another question, I believe.
Are volunteers of PTSA organization required to have a background check?
Most of the local
Volunteers required to have a background check.
well, yes and no. It really depends if you are working within a school building with students directly. Most schools these days require a background check. But if you are working at home and helping a teacher or making copies in the copy room, that normally does not require a background check.
If you do not come in contact with the children.
Well, and we have to be very careful, too, because in the state of Georgia, it is not a law that requires you. It is a matter of some school districts might require. It's a local school decision as to whether or not they subject you to a background check. But there are 7 states in the United States that the school systems do require. It is a law that you have to have you have to be fingerprinted or have a background check done.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So what does Georgia PTA do to reach the parents outside of the metropolitan Atlanta area, reaching rural Georgia counties?
Well, actually, go ahead. I'm sorry, George. I'm stepping on
I'm
your...
asking viewers if they can hear
Right.
me.
Okay.
All right. What people outside of the Atlanta area, what was the question again?
How are we reaching?
How does PTA reach outside
How
the
does
rural area?
PTA reach outside?
Well, fortunately, we have what we call districts in the state. And those district directors are elected by their local members.
Right.
And they sit on the Georgia PTA board. They vote for the issues that affect the children of Georgia
Within that district.
And we have many, many programs. Donna's in charge of the field service coordination of our organization, and people request certain presentations. Donna sends it out, we approve it, and maybe a team will go down there, maybe one person will go
I was
down
about
there.
to say, someone from your office will get in touch with whoever.
That's correct.
Once they get in touch with you
That's
on the
right.
state level, someone from your office will get in touch with
Right.
whoever in that district.
Right, and in a few
Regardless
weeks,
of where you are in Georgia.
right.
That's
In a
correct.
few weeks, we're going up to Gordon County in northwest Georgia to make a presentation to the principals up there regarding PTA. Donna and I and Sheila have all been down to Albany, Savannah, Columbus, you name it. we've been there.
County.
But you,
Yeah.
but you also do things to sort of like strengthen the PTA, whether it's
Right.
not as strong as it should be.
Yes.
You strengthen
Well,
the PTA.
and here's one of the barometers. We're just recently starting to look at our state and the districts based on the fact that we know that we have a little over 2,000, at least 2,000 public schools in the state of Georgia. And so we're focusing and looking at where do we need to go strategically to start to develop PTAs. And like
Right.
Leslie said, this opportunity with Gordon County is one of them. We're also starting to make contact with superintendents and trying to get on their agendas so that we can make presentations. And it's not so much about making a presentation about PTA as it is that we have proven programs that will help to get parents
Save
involved and
For
to
student
help
achievement.
for student achievement. And so even if you don't develop a PTA, at least listen to the information that we have, because then maybe you could have parents who think that's important enough to form a PTA so that we can teach them how to use the information.
We have another question. Some of the viewers can hear me. The school nurses impacted are the cluster school nurses, not necessarily the nurses at the school location. Could you explain the difference and the impact of eliminating what seems to be a management layer of school nurses?
Oh, interesting. Okay, I'll give it a shot. If for those that don't understand, when you talk about cluster schools, I can only speak to Fulton County because I know how that system works. And you would have one school nurse that would be responsible for what they call the cluster, which is all the elementary schools, the middle school, and the high school. That's a cluster. And so one nurse is responsible for managing the needs of that, what could be 5 or 6 different schools. So the question is, what's the difference in terms of the funding? Because what would happen is that even if you eliminated the one school nurse that's responsible for the cluster, to us, you are still doing the same thing, because if a local unit loses their nurse or a cluster loses their nurse, the same result happens. You have students who need medication, may have accidents, may have bruises, may have, incidents where a nurse is required. If there's no nurse, who's going to do it? Who's going to apply the Band-Aid? Who's going to let them lay down and rest? Sometimes these kids have accidents.
Well, and also, not every school system has clusters.
Very true.
And the $30 million that is designated for school nurses doesn't pay for all of the school nurses. That just pays for a portion of school nurses.
And when you start getting into some of the rural areas,
Right.
there may be just one school nurse
Correct.
for the entire district,
Yes.
Exactly.
Right.
which
Another
covers
question.
elementary, middle, and high school
Yes.
in the district, in that entire district. And you may have 2 or 3 schools.
Exactly.
Right.
Okay, we got to wrap it up soon.
Okay.
But what is being done to attract young parents? That's one of the questions. And where do people get the tongue depressions?
That's a great question. I'll take the tongue depressor. Go to a craft store and buy them. I mean, you can buy a whole box of 500 or 1,000 of them for $8 or $9, and they're basically called craft sticks. But tongue depressors, popsicle sticks. You don't have to eat 3 boxes of popsicles, but that's the same thing, basically.
And I'll take part of the other part of that is what are we trying to do to attract new parents, younger parents. This media that we're doing today is one of those ways that we're trying to attract new parents. We also realize that technology is a great way to communicate with what we consider the world at large now. And so we're looking at developing Facebook, blogging, any kind of medium that gets us to a wider, larger audience. So that's what we're doing. We're also going to be looking at, we've already started looking at our strategic plan. And within our strategic plan, we'll be utilizing what PTA already has, but has now made it better. And it's called OMDR, which is Online Management Data Reporting System. It's a feature that our national PTA put together to allow us to capture information about our members. And so what we're going to be doing is utilizing that information to send out information and interestingly enough, asking our members, have you asked someone to join PTA? Because again, joining PTA takes $5? You don't have to volunteer if you don't want to, but certainly every person in the community should be willing to support the schools in their community, because if not benefiting your individual child, benefiting every child in your community, because if you don't help them now, so I think someone said once before that it's better to help a child now than to repair an adult later.
Yeah, right.
And we got one last question. Is music in the schools being addressed by the PTSA?
We address the arts. We don't specifically address any one particular art over the other. But we do have a resolution. We support the arts. We always have. And so to that degree, we have what Donna mentioned before, a program called Reflections. This program allows every child, if they choose to submit either artwork, literature, music, dance and choreography, film and video, and visual arts and photography. I may have repeated one before, and literature. But those are the 6 categories, and there are 4 divisions. The pre-K division, which is pre-K through second grade, and then you've got 2nd through 4th grade, and then a middle school division, and then a high school division. So again, a child can... And we also now have a division called Special Artists, so that any child that has a special, that's a special needs student can participate in that category. So yes, we always address the arts, and we encourage every school to have a Reflections program, whether the parent volunteers to coordinate it, or you can find an art teacher sometimes who's willing to coordinate it. But Reflections is an excellent program for every child.
That would be the...
We've got one last question.
Okay.
I'm sorry. There was talk about adding the capability of creating the school directory. Is this, or when will this feature be available? And they're saying they're referring to OMDR.
Has been done. It's called OMDR Plus, and it was rolled out 2 or 3 weeks ago. And again, you can go to our Georgia PTA website or the National PTA website to get further information. But it's been done, and you will love the upgrades. It's now being managed by a professional management database professional company, and it's a lot easier to use than the old program.
Much user-friendly.
Yes.
Okay, that wraps it up for our show, George.
Well, is there anything else, ladies?
Well, we just like everybody to join PTA, and if you don't have a local PTA, we have a special PTA called the Bernie Butler membership. And that gives you just the same amount of privileges. You can come and vote at convention and do everything that you would normally do in a local school PTA.
Good. Well, thank you all. Thank you, ladies, for joining me.
You're welcome.
Thank
It was
you.
a pleasure.
It was a pleasure having
Thank
you.
you.
And it not only was a pleasure, it was very educational for me as well.
Good.
Now, people, once we finish this show tonight at 8 o'clock, you can join in helloworld.com. Join in with Rich Minds Online. That's RMO, Rich Minds Online. Go to Hello World chat room. Rich Minds Online at 8 o'clock tonight. Also, I'd like to, again to thank my members, the guests that I had on the show tonight. And in our upcoming show, we have
Special guest.
we have a special guest. There's a gentleman that is going to be appearing next week with a book that I think you all will love. It's going to be very wonderful. It's going to be a wonderful book, and I like to talk with him about it because it's about men and women. So join us next week at Sunday night at 7 o'clock at newroadsvideo.com. newroadsvideo.com. 7 o'clock Sunday night, the show. What's next? Thank you for watching, and have a great day. Good night.